Test, 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 test. The online audience. Test, 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 test. Here, so we know that. The online audience. Test, 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 test. Here, so we know that. Test, 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 test. Here, so we know that. Test, 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 test. Here, so we know that. Test, 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 test. Here, so we know that. Test, 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 test. Here, so we know that. Test, 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 test. Here, so we know that. Test, 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 test. Here, so we know that. Test, 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 test. Here, so we know that. Test, 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 test. Here, so we know that. For our YouTube audience, just making sure that the audio is working correctly and everything is being streamed properly through our live share. All right, thank you.
I'm the Assistant Director of the Emily Taylor Center for Women and Gender Equity here at KU. Through expansive programming around gender and identity, the Emily Taylor Center works to engage and empower members of our community to act in ways that challenge at KU and beyond. We envision a KU where people of all gender identities can learn and thrive in a safe and affirming community. One way that the Emily Taylor Center for Women and Gender Equity encourages practicing feminism is through our zine programming. By hosting bi-weekly zine club meetings that are co-sponsored by Students United for Reproductive and Gender Equity, and offering collaborative zine projects like this one, we promote making zines as a way of creating community and doing feminism. Tonight, it's my pleasure to host and also contribute to this evening's release and reflection event for our collaborative zine project titled Smash the Patriarchy. And so I encourage you to flip through, follow along as we discuss some of our topics. We have two lovely contributors here with us tonight. And so they'll share some of their insights into what inspired And so,
all right, thank you for bearing with us, everyone. I'm now looking for a motion to call this session to order. All right, I see a motion from Holly. Do I have a second? I see a second from Faith. All right, and with that, we will move towards a vote to start the session here. Do I see any opposition to this motion?
And the reason why I felt
all right, seeing none, I will say that this matter rests in the affirmative, and we will go ahead and start our meeting here. All right, the first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Do I see a motion? All right, I see a motion from Alejandro, and I see a second from Faith. All right, and with that, we will go ahead and begin a vote to approve the minutes from our last session. And this will be the moment where we start organizing on teams here, so feel free to go into the general chat here to access this form.
So this is a bibliography of different authors that have explored the history of patriarchy, and so encourage you to do some further reading and also some viewing. At the bottom here we have Miguel Roel's Smash the Patriarchy in Historical Perspective, which is a YouTube video that Miguel did.
Three options on this poll will be A for approving them, nay for not approving them, and abstaining if you would like to not be within the vote.
I encourage you to watch that if you want to learn more about the history of patriarchy. And so, as I said, my page is really just taking the outline.
All right, and that vote has been sent to the teams general, so feel free to vote on that if you are a voting member.
It was not one event, but that it was a process that developed over a period of nearly 2,500 years, approximately from 3100 to 600 BC. And she notes how the appropriation by men of women's sexual and reproductive capacity occurred prior to the formation of private property in class society. She talks about how archaic states were organized in the form of patriarchy, and that from its inception, the state as a concept and reality has an essential interest in the maintenance of the patriarchal family. Men first there was the creation.
All right, and has everyone voted on this matter that needs to vote on this matter through teams?
That resonates with us today still.
Let me come up and help.
The good girl, the bad girl, that sort of dynamic, the Madonna and the whore. For women's class status is mediated through sexual ties to a man who then gives them access to material.
And it's supposed to also clarify the rules in terms of voting. Please only vote if you are a student senator. So that would be the qualification for voting in this matter.
A concept and a reality that's with us very much today. Metaphysical female power, especially the power to give life.
Seeing 34 ayes, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions, it is clear that this motion passes.
In most aspects of their lives on Earth.
Right. And so we will go ahead and move on to the next item in our agenda, which is officer reports. Our first officer report will be from our student body president, Naya McAdoo.
Sexuality and eroticism and procreativity.
Okay, can everyone hear me? I gotta like lean forward a little bit. It's great to have you all here. Some of you know me and some of you don't. My name is Naya McAdoo. My pronouns are she, they. I'm a senior here at KU. So I just wanted to take this opportunity, like in my officer report, to just like shed some light on a few things, some things that I think need to be addressed, like here at the beginning of Senate. And then I'll be doing like my official officer reports of just like stuff I've been doing over the summer. I'll be uploading that to our team so you guys can take a look at that a little bit later. So I'll go ahead and begin. Welcome new and returning folks to our first cycle of Student Senate. I'm very happy to have you all here and look forward to working with with you all to create a better Senate space and campus overall. With that being said, I would like to take this opportunity to address some things. This past year has been a struggle for everyone for many reasons, whether that be COVID or other adversities and injustices we have seen going on in the media. I want you all to know that I'm here to support you all in any way that I can, and do not hesitate to reach out to me. My information is obviously like in the office, but you could probably find me on social media as well. The Student Senate space itself in the past year has been a very troubling, uncomfortable, and unsafe space for many individuals. We have had many amazing advocates and fellow students leave the Senate due to harmful nature of several individuals in the Student Senate space, whether that be from the targeting of women, especially women of color, racism, sexual violence, and other harmful behaviors. I want to offer a sincere apology now to these individuals today on behalf of the Student Senate, and ensure that moving forward, these behaviors will not be accepted or tolerated. Although the previous student body vice president, Grant Daly, resigned from his post, the amount of trauma he left in his wake cannot be forgotten, and it should not be, because there are Grant Dalys in every place we work that use this manipulative behavior to massive violence they commit in these same spaces. I would like to take this opportunity to offer a long overdue apology and a promise of solidarity to the individuals and survivors who stepped forward with their stories last semester. The reason Grant Daly and many others like him continue to hold power in these systems, whether they be on or off campus, is because the system of governing we operate in was built on racism and white supremacy. These systems thrive on the emotional, mental, and physical trauma and labor of Black and brown individuals who are taken advantage of every day in every system. The legacy of centering whiteness and white violence in the Student Senate space ends today. These issues do not fall on one person, nor does it mean that the Senate is now a 100% safe space just because Grant Daly no longer resides here. There are individuals still in the Senate space who either allowed this behavior to happen and did not question it, or were committing it themselves. Accountability will be expected, and those individuals know who they are. If anyone feels that they cannot function in the Senate space further without causing this continued harm, I would ask you to leave now. A new constitution was written over the summer to address these many issues and create a plan for accountability moving forward. The executive staff and myself will be using this year in the Senate to address the longstanding bigotry and injustices that remain in the Student Senate space, in administration, and campus overall. We have a lot of work to do, and it will not be easy. Ethan and myself are grateful to be in this space and be able to advocate for the communities we belong to and don't belong to, obviously, and students overall. But understand that we are just two people, and we are not here to save anyone or cater to white cis guilt. This work must be done by all of us, and especially for the individuals claiming allyship and are in a position of privilege. This is the call for you to show up. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions before I take a seat?
I would say I've walked in an office setting where I can see that.
Thank you for that, Naya. Seeing no questions, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is an officer report from me. Umberto, could you take the chair?
Their boss is a man, and so I guess for me, looking at that setting, you can just see women that are
You can go ahead.
And
perfect. All right. Thank you for joining us this evening, everyone. I'll try to keep this brief. First, I would like to state my support of everything that our president just read in that statement there. We really want to look forward to a Senate space that is inclusive, safe, and welcoming for all of us here. Starting here, Student Senate has obviously commenced its first cycle this week, which round of applause for everyone involved. That has been great. A lot of you attended our legislative trainings that we've done over the past few weeks, and so hopefully everyone knows everything about the legislative system within Student Senate, and if not, you know, we're always here for questions here. It is very complex and sometimes overwhelming for students, I can say, to my own experience within Senate here. So really, if you have any questions after that training, or if you just need help in regards to the legislative branch of governance here, feel free to reach out to me or any folks within our office. Senate, as you're seeing now, will be run as a hybrid event here. We will have participation in person and online through our Microsoft Teams integrations. As you saw tonight, that is coming off a little less welcoming than expected, but we're trying here. As of right now, we have moved towards the Student Senate YouTube for all streaming of our events, and so that'll be where we keep everything recorded for the public record there. And also we are moving to have the voting record here on Microsoft Teams so that we can make sure that when someone does vote, it is tracked and students are able to look that up within the public record.
That's mine.
New things to notice within Student Senate as well. Let's see. Me and Naya went to the Student Advisory Council retreat that was held in Hays, Kansas this past weekend. With that retreat, we were able to make some valuable connections with student governments across the state of Kansas and all of the Kansas Board of Regents schools. We were able to talk about issues such as student health insurance, diversity, equity, and inclusion work, social justice work within the KBOR, and as well talking about like student fees and how we would like that to be listened to this year when it comes to student voice in those matters. And classes have commenced across campus this week. We're seeing a surge of student involvement in Student Senate. I've been able to review the numbers here with me and my Chief of Staff, Humberto, and we're looking at a really good year for Student Senate involvement in all of our standing committees as well as in the full Senate. So I'm really proud of all of you for that and your continued work here across campus. It's been something that's been hard to do throughout COVID to increase student involvement in Student Senate, let alone other student organizations across campus. But maintaining that student involvement, maintaining student life here at the university is something that we as a government should work to do and make sure that this university is a safe place for everyone here and is welcoming in terms of like student organizations being able to access funds through their Student Senate. And finally, Student Senate will continue its work on its SSRR rewrite project. I am the chair of that committee. On the Student Senate Teams, you should see an SRR rewrite channel, and that has the current most up-to-date version of the rewrite project, which is on a Google Doc. And if you would like to get involved with that committee, please feel free to review that channel over the next week or so. We're going to be looking at dates to start having those committee meetings again, as we are looking to have that passed by around cycle 3 or cycle 4 of Student Senate this year. So feel free, if you want to get involved with that or like have any questions regarding that, to ask me by email at sbvp@ku.edu. And with that, I believe that'll be the end of my officer report for tonight. Does anyone have any questions?
Does anyone have any questions for our student body vice president? All right, seeing none, Holly Hall, you are our next officer report.
Show how some of these things have kind of a historical basis.
I'll reclaim the chair here, and yeah, Holly, do your thing.
Hello everyone, I'm Holly Hall. I'm the Graduate Student Body Vice President of Student Senate here at KU. I just wanted to say that I echo everything that Naya and Ethan said about being an inclusive and equitable space and holding oneself accountable. So I'm looking forward to a better year in Student Senate this year. The only couple of things I have to update you on from this week is that the Graduate Student Advisory Board met today from 4 to 5 with the graduate senators, and we discussed graduate issues on campus. I also met with the Kansas Board of Regents Student Insurance Insurance Committee, I think it's called. And we talked about the student insurance for the upcoming year. Wichita State are trying to remove dependents from that, which obviously I'm opposed to as an advocate for graduate students. Removing dependents and spouses is not a good thing for graduate students. So what else? I've been advocating for international students. We actually got our fee increased without any international student input or telling of international students. It just got increased by $10. Without telling anybody. So we met, the International Student Advisory Committee met with Charlie Bankhart, who is the Associate Vice Provost for International Affairs, and kind of advocated and said that that shouldn't happen. It happened last year as well. And we are going to have monthly meetings with him to make sure something like that does not happen again. Lastly, Naya, Ethan, and I meet with Doug on Friday, that's the Chancellor, from 3:15 to 4:15. So we're hoping to have a meeting with the Kansas Board of Regents in October when they come to our campus. And if there are any issues that you would like us to bring up to Doug on Friday, you should let us know. You can either let us know at the end, or if you want to speak in front of everybody, you can. But that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
All right, do you have any questions for our Graduate Student Body Vice President? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Holly. Our next officer report will be from our Chief of Staff, Humberto Gomez Salinas.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Very excited to have all you back for the full Senate. Just I wanted to reiterate the importance of officer reports. Why are we telling you what we're doing? Well, it's because your student fees are paying us to do our jobs, and so the officer reports is a great way for you to be able to hold us accountable for our jobs. So we're gonna be sharing with you, what we're doing, and this is like a chance for you to ask questions back, to just try to figure out what we're up to. And if you don't think we should be getting paid for this or anything, this is like the place to bring it up. This is how you find out what we're all up to. So it's really important that you pay attention to officer reports in general, just so that you know if the people that are getting paid by your student fees are doing their jobs properly. With that being said, I'm actually going to give my time of the officer report to introduce a couple of new senators. So usually when there are vacant seats here in the Senate, you can apply to be a replacement senator. And if there is, let's say, 5 vacant seats and only 4 people apply, then those seats get appointed right away. But if there's a position that multiple people applied to, such as, let's say, there was one open space for the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, but 10 people applied, then we have to create a committee that reviews all the applications, and then that committee takes a decision on to who will get the replacement senator seat. And if you are not a senator, you would like to apply to that, let me know and I can send you the link. But so this committee was formed last week. It met, it reviewed through applications and everything. And we have, I'm pretty sure not everyone is able to be here, but we have a couple of new senators that I'm going to go ahead and introduce. And if you are here, feel free to just stand up, wave, say your name, whatever you want to share, your major pronouns. And and then we're gonna go ahead and acclimate these people. So y'all, I'm gonna look for a motion to get these people acclimated. You all do it, but after I introduce them, right? All right, yeah. So you're good. So first, we have our new business senator, who is Nate Nielsen. If you could, just stand up real quick if you want to say your name. Well, not your name, I just said it, but yeah.
Not my availability, something I could reach for but never attain. Never explain why it was where my hands gravitated. My femininity hesitated, forced, broken, degraded,
Love that.
grasping for the other side, when in truth there are none. No corners, no need to hide.
Thank you. Then we have Murtaza, who is our off-campus senator. There you are. Hello.
And so the poem really made me think about Hunter's piece.
Next off, we have Diego Chavez, who is our College of Liberal Arts and Sciences senator.
Forced to deal with the misogyny that comes with that, and also their identity outside of femininity. So those two I thought paired really well, and I wish that both of them could be here too.
All right, then we have Alex Flathers. Are they here? Oh, awesome. So Alex is our new College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, and so there's a junior senior category and a freshman sophomore category. So congrats.
Is a page called Forming Strength, and this is by Laura Marie River Victor Peace Napoles, and she says this page is called Forming Strength. Resisting patriarchy is and my favorite.
Thank you. All right, and then we go ahead, and I'm gonna introduce our grad student senators. So, some of them I think are online, some of them are here, but we have Cynthia, who is our grad senator. We also have, is Cynthia here by any chance? I don't think so. We have Ipatia, who is a grad senator too. We have Connor Works, and we have Justin Shuck. I didn't really expect the grad students to be here, but if any of these names are, feel free to introduce yourself.
Disability
justice. All right. Well, with that being said, let's give a round of applause for them even if they're not here.
Hi, I'm Jenny Nielsen, and I'm a new graduate senator.
Oh, yay, thank you.
Pockets of well-being that aren't based on
Yeah, if there's another graduate senator online, you can also feel free to jump in and introduce yourself.
That's what this page
yeah.
is about. I will
If not,
present
I'm gonna be looking for a motion to acclimate these senators.
Instead, choose
I see a
Mother
motion from
Earth,
Tan.
nature,
I see a
DIY
second from
health,
Faith.
and love, which is free.
Sorry, you're the yeah. You do that. You do that.
And so, and then, as I said, we have kind of a bibliography here and ways to learn more about patriarchy and its history. But yeah, I just want to talk maybe a little bit about some of the themes that run through the different pages. Those that, we have the contributors here to speak, but also those that maybe we don't have.
Congrats, everyone. And yeah, that's most of my time for the officer report. I'll make sure I upload more updates I have on other stuff later, but I don't want to take too much time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Humberto. Seeing no questions, we'll move towards our Treasurer's Office officer report with Hamad Hassan and Hanif Ashraf.
Hey everyone, my name is Hamad. I'll be the student body treasurer for this year. And this is...
Hello, I'm Hanif Ashraf. I'll be the associate treasurer for this year.
Okay, so our officer report is usually going to be visual or sent beforehand because we don't want to waste your time. So it's going to be a little bit faster this time around because I'm not going to read everything on the screen because you guys can read it whenever you want after this meeting. A few big things. Our fee bill that we proposed last year as students was not passed by K-Board, which is the Kansas Board of Regents. So we had to implement a flat fee process, which was really fun. Hopefully we don't have to do it again, but you'll hear a lot more about it later this year. This cycle we have 3 consent agenda bills, so the student groups that are getting the funding will not be speaking in front of you just because it's $100. But in the future, if they are getting any special funding, they will come up here and present with me unless they're one of the senators is actually the author. Another bill coming through today is funding for food via general funding, that $100 that I was talking about just now. And then last but not least, a program review of the KU card replacement program, which we will talk about later. Some new changes for returning senators include that there is now a legislative tracker. So if you are already on Microsoft Teams in the general channel, you can go to the new tab called legislation/funding tracker and see all the bills before they even get released via email and their progress. You can also see how much money is in the unallocated. So for this cycle, the recommended amount of money that was recommended to be used was around $3,750, but only coming through right now is going to be $300. So that'll just put more money into next cycle. So that's currently next cycle, a little bit under $4,000. It would be what's recommended to be used. Additionally, the last new tracker is the student group tracker. So any student group, any senator can go online and see what student groups have used as far as their funding and recommend them to use even more because they are allocated that amount and we recommend they use it. So if you know any groups that have already received funding or want to use their funding, make sure to tell them to reach out to the treasurer's office. Last but not least, bills can now be found under the files tab in the general channel and we remove the documents channel. New form to request funding. So this will make life a lot easier for those who hate whereas clauses. So this can be found in the bills folder in the files in the general channel. So again, this will be available afterwards, but the form is right there, Senate funding request form. We've made it a lot easier. So it's fill in the blank instead of figure out what the heck a whereas clause is. This is the first page, just general information about who's applying. Second page is screening questions, stuff that you guys usually like to ask, like, are you open to all students? Do you charge any fees? We're trying to get this all out on paper so the students here in this chamber can ask more meaningful questions about what the student groups are doing, what cool things they're up to. So we're trying to get away with making this space feel a little bit more welcoming. Additionally, if you want to apply for special event funding, page 3 is for that, and page 4 is the compliance policy, which is something that we require all groups to sign after they receive their funding. I'm just doing it before so we can get it out of the way. last but not least, I am open to meet with y'all whenever. So there's a QR code there. If you don't know me already, my other name is QR Code Guy. I don't know who made that up, but feel free to schedule a meeting with me whenever. This link directly links with my calendar. So I would be down to meet with any of you guys any day. If you want to talk about Senate funding, why we're in charge of $24 million, feel free to schedule a meeting with me whenever. I'm having meetings with student groups almost every other day, so it's not going to be getting in the way of my schedule. You guys are paying me to do this. With that, Hanif.
Cool. Hello, everyone. Just reiterating pretty much what he said, but moving over to the fact that we're also going to be doing DEI Fund Board, which, if you haven't heard of it before, it's where we pretty much fund marginalized groups or any other group who fits into that DEI category, which, if you don't know what DEI stands for, it stands for diversity, equity, inclusion. And that's something that I feel like we're going to be really big on this year. And we want to get this funding out. So if you know any organizations or any groups that would like to come to that, please have them shoot me an email and I'll send them a funding form. It's going to look a little bit different than the one that Hamad already had up there, but please send me an email and I can go out and reach out, or just send me the organization's name and I'll go out personally and reach out to these groups. And if anyone has any questions or about anything, please feel free to contact me. Literally all you have to do is go into your KU email, type Student Senate Associate Treasurer, and it pretty much works for every single one on exec committee. If you're trying to reach the Chief of Staff, you can just type in Chief of Staff and you'll easily be able to find their email. Thank you, everyone.
And with that, do we have any questions for our Treasurer's Office? Awesome. All right. With that, we'll go ahead and move on to our next officer report, which is Daphne, our Director of Diversity and Inclusion.
Okay, well, I don't have a QR code or a fancy little presentation, but I promise to be quick. Okay, so I'm Daphne. I'm a senior. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm the Director of DEI. So I first off established office hours. They're hanging on my door, so if you want to come see me, you totally can. I'm pretty much always in there. If not, you can email me or text me. All of that is on the business cards. But yeah, if you literally need anything at all, even if it's not DEI and you don't know who to go to, you can come find me and I will help you out with that. So what I've been working on is a lot of outreach and a lot of really boring research that doesn't sound really fun. In my office, my whiteboard is like this really hot mess of a thing because I have to figure out what our diversity model is going to look like. That's what I'm currently working on. Everyone at the university has told me that there is not a clear definition of what DEI is to us, which is what gets in our way when we're trying to make the movements that we want to make in the area. So that's what I'm doing. If you have any marginalized groups on campus or literally any group that you really want to get in on this discussion of what it means to them, have them email me or email me with their contact info. I would love to hear from them and get in touch with them. Which also goes to say, if you guys have thoughts on that, email me, text me, come see me in the office. Would love to talk to you guys about it. I want to make sure that we're listening to as many voices as possible because otherwise, what difference am I making, I guess? But yeah, that's pretty much it. Does anyone have any questions?
Questions for Daphne? All right. Thank you, Daphne. And sadly, our communications director is unable to join us tonight due to a previous conflict, and so they will be giving their officer report online through the general channel of Teams. And with that, we'll go ahead and move to the next item on our agenda, our internal affairs director, Max. Clap when you feel it's right.
You don't have to clap for me. Hello, everyone. My name is Max Litch. I'm the Internal Affairs Director, as Ethan said. It's nice seeing a lot of new faces here. Welcome to the first cycle of the year. That's something to be proud of. It's been a while since we've had a cycle here. It's been a rough year. It's a lot nicer than being on Teams, though. No offense to the people that are on Teams, but it is nice being in person. As for what I've done so far, you may have seen us tabling in the 4th floor walkway out there this past week. And that was to get more people to join Student Senate, which will hopefully kind of translate into some of the people that came to committees last week eventually attending full Senate. I don't know if any of those freshmen are here yet, since they probably don't have senator seats. But in addition to that, we were also loaning out our clicker system, since we are doing voting via Teams now, which we hope, it was pretty successful. We loaned out about 40 clickers. We hope they'll use them for their classes. I don't really know what else they're going to use them for. That'd be pretty weird if they just took a clicker. But hopefully that program will be used continuously in the future. We actually had some people give us clickers as well. It's a good way to kind of offset the normal $60 cost you'd have with the bookstore and buying those clickers. What else? We're going to be starting the internship program soon, which I think we're going to be calling the mentorship program this year because it's more of a mentorship kind of thing. Because in my eyes, it's always been a little bit weird that you can be an intern and also a senator. So we think mentorship's more fitting. How that'll work is someone who's maybe a freshman or a sophomore and wants to learn more about Senate will get paired with a more experienced senator or someone on exec, and you'll shadow them. You'll kind of just have that contact and be able to build a relationship with them and hopefully learn more about the organization. I'll have more information out about that soon. The replacement senator stuff is very good. Umberto handled that well. Given attendance today, we will probably have more replacement seats in the future. So keep your eye out on that in the future. I'll probably be sending out emails related to that. If you have people that want to join Senate and they didn't make it through the first kind of replacement seat cycle, we will definitely be doing more in the future. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Max. Anyone have any questions for our Internal Affairs Director? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our Government Relations Director, Birdie.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Birdie. As Ethan said, I'm your Government Relations Director. This summer, I've been working with Kate Kemper at the Center for Service Learning to get a Voter Action Week started for October. And then I've also been working with her to get a statewide voting challenge started for all of the higher ed institutions here in Kansas. The Student Legislative Action Committee is going to be meeting next week for the first time, so if you're interested in joining that, let me know. I've also been working with Nye and Ethan on our relationship with the Kansas Board of Regents and our plan for making sure they actually listen to us next year. My office hours will be posted on my door tomorrow. But honestly, I'm always on my phone, so if you need something, just shoot me a message. And then if there are any legislative things that you want to talk about or things you want to see Senate do this year, let me know. I have a very unhealthy obsession with following Kansas politics, so I'm always down to talk about what's going on. Does anyone have any questions for me? Wonderful.
All right. Thank you, Birdie. Seeing no questions, we'll move on to our Policy and Development Director, Ari.
Okay, can I take my mask off to speak or no?
I think the microphone will be able to go.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Yes. Okay, beautiful. Hi, friends. My name is, it says Ariana. You can also call me Ari. Either is fine. I will be your Policy and Development Director for this year. I'm a senior here at KU, and I'm studying political science with minors in public policy, WIGs, and possibly in business. I have been in Student Senate since my freshman year, and I've been active in the DEI committee and served as its vice chair from 2019 to 2020. While also being a senator for the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences from 2019 to 2021. And I also was chair of the DEI fund that Hanif was talking about. I am absolutely thrilled to be here. The main essence of my job is in the position title. It's pretty self-explanatory. But to elaborate on that a little, I am responsible for the development, creation, monitoring of Senate programs. I will work in conjunction with you all, these senators, to accomplish this, which means that I'm going to be on you to make sure that you are doing your work, because if you don't finish it, then it's actually my responsibility and I have to finish it. So let's do our work. If you are interested in a particular policy area or even have ideas, please reach out to me. I have a master list of ideas right now. It's 7 pages long, looking to make it longer, so please come and talk to me. I'll regularly report on that progress to you every Senate cycle beginning right now. This past summer, I have been acquiring research from our peer institutions in the Big 12, looking at what their policies are, how are they functioning, how can we work to make that better here if we can work it here. I am intensely passionate about making campus and Senate a more accessible, transparent, and equitable environment, and hope to combat and rectify the effects of racism, misogyny, ableism, community discrimination, poverty, and food insecurity in my role as a Policy and Development Director.
I am beyond honored, blessed, privileged to serve those who learn, work, and educate at KU and promise to be an accessible and kind advocate and accomplice. I said that I have my business card with me, but I'm actually locked out of my office. So if you want to connect with all things Senate, just come up to me after we're done here. And we can do that. I can just give you my email and it'll be fine. But I am ready to ask questions if you have any.
All right. Do we have any questions for our Policy and Dev Director, Ari? Seeing none, thank you, Ari. And last, but certainly not least, our co-directors for the Center for Community Outreach, Miriam and Radya.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Nice to see everyone today. So my name is Miriam. I'm the Managing Director for the Center for Community Outreach.
Hi, everyone. My name is Radya, and I'm the Executive Director for the Center for Community Outreach.
Okay, so despite the fact that the CCO is considered staff with Student Senate, it's been a number of years since the CCO co-directors have actually given officer report during Student Senate. So since this is the first time that we're doing so at full Senate, we'll go ahead and give an overview of kind of what the CCO is. So people who are new kind of have an understanding of who we are. And then I'll pass it on to Radya, who will talk about Super Service Saturday, which is our biggest fall event of the fall. So to start off, what is the CCO? We are KU's largest student-run volunteer organization on campus. We oversee 13 different programs, each centered on a different niche of service. So we oversee the campus cupboard. We have a program centered on animal advocacy, mental health, language literacy, et cetera, et cetera. And so one of the big reasons why we have a link with Student Senate is that we get a big chunk of our funding, which is for our exec staff's pay, is through Student Senate, which we do through Block, as well as for the base funding for each of our programs. And so the remainder of the funding for our programs comes from requests sent to different departments on campus, which is a big chunk of my job. And that's to send out requests for donations. That's how we're able to fund the remainder of programs funding, as well as how we're able to fund our events. And so one of those big events that came from those requests was Super Service Saturday, which I'll pass on to Radha to talk about.
All right, so this past Saturday, August 28th, we had our largest service event called Super Service Saturday. We were able to serve over 25 sites around Lawrence. So we sent over 230 students around the community to volunteer at places like the Ballard Center, the Lawrence Community Shelter. We had folks over at Clinton Lake. We had people helping at the Lawrence Community Arts Center and kind of just like in the gardens around town all over the place. We're really happy with the turnout and with the feedback we've been getting. We got some exceptional feedback from some of our community partners where they were grateful for the work because due to COVID and other circumstances, they weren't able to get these things done. So we hope to continue those partnerships throughout the year. If you know of any individuals around campus who are looking to get more involved with service, please send them our way. We're looking to fulfill spots within all areas of leadership, including program coordinators and looking for some volunteers. So yeah, if y'all have any questions, our office is right next to Student Senate. We'd love to get to chop it up with you guys some more. Okay, thanks guys.
All right. Do we have any questions for our CCO directors? All right, that's really great because they're at the back of the room. Thank you. All right, and seeing that, we are now moving on through our agenda here to items on the consent agenda. Now, for an item to be on the consent agenda, it generally means that these bills are concerning general funding. Every student organization is guaranteed at least $100 of general funding from the Student Senate, and so all of this legislation meets those qualities. So I'm currently looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda. All right, I see a motion from Holly. And do I see a second? I see a second from Tan. All right, and with that, we will move into a vote to approve the consent agenda. All right, just like last time, if you'd like to approve it, please vote aye. If you would like to not approve it, vote nay. And if you don't want to be a party to the vote, please hit abstain. All right, the poll is live on the Teams now for general. And I'll let this process run for about a minute or two. All right. Has everyone had a chance to vote on this legislation, physically and/or in the Teams meeting? All right, brilliant. I'm seeing 34 votes, 34 ayes, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions in relation to this vote. So the motion clearly passes. Oh, wrong end. All right, thank you, everyone. And with that, we'll be moving on to our bill to review the KU card replacement program, which was authored by our treasurer, Hamad. All right, and when presenting legislation, this is now when we're going to get into speaking rules here. Generally speaking, speakers get 2 minutes to present the legislation and then are allowed to take questions with extension to that speaker's time. I believe that's correct, right, Hamad?
Yeah, sure. Whatever you like. You're the chair.
Truly.
Okay, getting right into this. So this bill is just a review of a program. As part of my job, I'm supposed to make sure anything that is like expenditures, anything in regards to Senate funding, like it needs to be approved by Student Senate before it gets paid, right? So we are supposed to review all of our programs every year. So this is one of the one of the many programs that Student Senate will be reviewing every year, and that we have been doing in the past few years. Due to COVID, we lapsed a lot of programs. One of the other programs that was reviewed earlier this summer was the New York Times subscription. If you look around, there's some pink papers around here. If you can use those papers to basically get a free New York Times account. So we already pay for it, so I would recommend using it. Free stuff, right? With that being said, this bill is in regards to the KU card replacement program, which is the partnership between KU Student Senate and the SGD Center. So basically, any student who may change their name during their time at KU and needs to replace their KU card, Student Senate will pay for the replacement fee. This program has been around for a couple of years, so there's not really anything I'm asking you guys to change with this. This is just a program that's already pre-existing, so I'll be just looking for a motion to approve.
All right. So I don't see questions. I see all motion from up here. What is your motion? To approve. All right. And do I see a second? All right. I see a second from Ton. All right. And with that, we will move to a vote on the matter. Is anyone in opposition to moving to a vote on this legislation? All right, seeing no opposition in the chamber and hearing none on the Teams, we will go ahead and move towards a vote on the matter. This will once again be on the general Teams, and so look out for that poll as I create it here. Oh. Speaker's time's expired if you're interested.
I'll be speaking a lot this year, so good luck.
Hamad, what was the number for the legislation?
This is 008.
Perfect.
Then we'll go to 005 next.
Bill.
While you're voting, the last day to submit legislation for next cycle is this Friday. What else?
All right. That vote is now live on the Teams. So yeah, if you vote to approve Senate Bill 2022-08 to approve the KU card replacement program for renewal.
Oh yeah, there's also free swag in the back. So New York Times merch. There's also some keychains. There's pens. So feel free to grab a bunch of stuff. Give it out to your friends. We have a lot, so it's all for you guys.
Verse 30.
Yeah, the New York Times pens are really nice, by the way. Oh yeah, there was mugs too earlier.
All right. Has everyone had the ability to vote on this matter that would like to in the chamber? All right. Is anyone still waiting to vote on the Teams call currently? All right. Seeing no responses, I'll go ahead and say that voting is now closed for this matter. And with a vote of 34 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 1 abstention, this bill clearly passes.
Congratulations, your first bill. Okay.
And with that, we will go ahead and move on to the next item on our agenda, which is a bill to amend SSRR to allow general funding for food, which is also going to be presented by our treasurer, Hamad.
Yep, that's why I'm still up here.
All right.
So this is my first SSRR bill. I personally think this one is going to be one that everybody loves because I am requesting Student Senate to authorize the general funding that we allocate to almost every student group that qualifies for it, that funding to be also used for food from KU dining. Initially, this bill was written to be just for pizza because that's a good thing to start off with when it comes to funding, but Finance Committee amended it, and Finance Committee was like, due to dietary restrictions, it might be better to just do it for all food at KU dining. With that being said, there are some restrictions to this passing, so student groups will be required to get this funding approved by my office 2 to 4 weeks in advance. So communication with the union needs to start at least like 4 weeks in advance. So this is something that I've discussed with the union already, and the purpose of this is just because we want to get the PO, the actual order, paid for beforehand, because we don't want the union coming back 3 years later saying that, hey, can you pay for $200 worth of food, which may or may not have happened this summer. But with that being said, besides the restriction of the timeline, this should be a good opportunity to see the food utilization and need for student groups across campus. And the goal is for Finance Committee to review this at the end of this semester and maybe lift some restrictions around the funding. So, but yeah, any questions?
All right. Any questions on the floor for Hamad? I see a question from Tan.
billing is the same for on our end. So basically, you would get a quote from KU Dining/Union. Usually, it's the registration individuals who reserve your room, or they'll help you with that process. And then you would send that invoice to me at least 2 to 4 weeks in advance, so we can get that approved. Because there's also deadlines on the union side. Because if the closer you get to the event, the more costs increases for cancellations and for et cetera.
All right. And with that, we are out of speakers' time. I'm looking for either a motion to extend speakers' time or a motion to vote on the matter. All right. I see a motion from Martine. All right. And do I see a second? Let's see. I see a second with here. And what was your name again? Alex. A second from Alex. All right. And with that, is anyone in this chamber in opposition to moving towards a vote for this legislation? All right, seeing no one in opposition in the chamber. Anyone on the teams? Seeing none, I'll say this is a unanimous approval to go to vote on the matter. And with that, we will launch the poll for approving Senate Bill 2022-5. As always, vote A to approve, nay to not approve, and abstain if you do not want to be party to this bill.
Also, the sounds that were coming earlier, they're actually from Malat, from 2 floors above us. So thank you, KU Union, for figuring that out.
Yeah, and I don't know if any of you saw the live stream as it was going, but we did actually get a comment like right there at the beginning being like, I hear 2 people speaking at once. So that was a fun time. All right, give about another minute to vote on this matter. All right, has everyone in the chamber been able to vote on the matter? Anyone who hasn't? And is there anyone on the teams that is still preparing to vote and or is ready? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and close voting on this legislation. And with 34 votes in the affirmative, no votes in the negative, and no abstentions, this bill clearly passes. Right. And with that, I was informed that someone wanted to introduce legislation in committee of the whole today. Do I see a motion? All right, motion from Faith. All right, and do I see a second? All right, I see a second from Martine. All right, is there anyone in opposition to going into committee of the whole to vote or to generate legislation? And I guess just to also clarify on what this means, so committee of the whole is when we, as like a full student senate, we're acting as one solid committee to formulate legislation to then be generated and voted upon once we exit committee of the whole. So that's what that process looks like there. All right, I don't see any opposition in the chamber here. Do we have any opposition on teams to entering into committee of the whole? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and say that is unanimous consent to move into committee of the whole. All right, and let's see. So now this is generally, we don't have to really follow rules of procedure anymore. Committee of the whole is a space where generally people can speak on legislation and speak. I'll just try to keep some sort of general order going that is somewhat tangential to Robert's rules, but really it's just a free-flowing speaking space. But yeah. Let's see, Faith, would you like to come up to present the legislation here?
Yes.
Awesome. I think it's in the teams currently, so I went ahead and attached it in the general files.
Found it. Skills. It's all yours.
And would you like to read first, or should I, or do you want to read the whole
Well,
thing? How are you feeling?
Let me introduce myself first. So my name is Faith Lopez. I'm a sophomore. I use she, they pronouns, and I am a social welfare major. So that's just a little bit about me. We can go back and forth if you want. Okay. So today, me and Ethan will be presenting a resolution. So it's a resolution condemning the actions of the Phi Delta Gamma fraternity at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. So, whereas the Phi Delta Gamma fraternity, or Fiji, at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, UNL, allowed an act of sexual violence and physical violence to occur at their fraternity house off campus on the 24th of August, 2021.
Whereas this is part of a larger pattern of issues regarding the Phi Delta Gamma fraternity on the UNL campus, including reckless alcohol use, hazing, and inappropriate sexually based behavior, including a pattern of sexually harassing conduct, according to a statement from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln regarding the fraternity's previous suspension in 2017.
Whereas the Phi Delta Gamma fraternity has shown a blatant disregard for the experience of victims of sexual violence that occurred at the Phi Delta Gamma fraternity and has been unwilling to take accountability for these actions even after the 2017 suspension.
The University of Kansas Student Senate recognizes the insidious nature of hazing and sexual assault in grief-like organizations and in larger university communities.
The University of Kansas Student Senate recognizes that this incident is not an isolated occurrence to UNL, but something that affects nearly every university campus in the United States.
Whereas the University of Kansas Student Senate recognizes that the issue of sexual assault and violence occurs on our own campus and understands the injustices and inequities concerning the investigation of these acts at KU.
Therefore, be it resolved that the KU Student Senate condemns this behavior and stands firmly with the victims of the Phi Delta Gamma fraternity at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln and with those protesting for the removal of this fraternity from the UNL campus.
Be it further resolved that the KU Student Senate considers sexual assault prevention and education a top priority for students and their student government. Furthermore, KU Student Senate will take an active role in ensuring that sexual violence is reported within the KU and Lawrence community. And with that, do you have any questions regarding this legislation? Let's see.
Oh, but there's someone else over there.
Yeah. What's your name?
I'm Will. I just got recently elected as the Associate Senator for UA. I just want to make a quick clarification. I'm a member of Phi Gamma Delta. You have Delta and Gamma flipped in the name.
Okay.
Here at KU, so I would just make sure you fix that before you submit it. And then also, I just wanted to say that we absolutely are fully in support of this bill. Our fraternity here on this campus, it's a very, very strict policy that we don't tolerate anything like this. If anything like that happens, that person would be removed from the fraternity immediately. So just wanted to make that clear and show Phi Gamma Delta, Pi Deuteron chapter at KU's full support for this condemnation.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you. All right, question back here from Sadie.
Either of you, both of you, mind elaborating on the specific actions that the last where or further result cause entails in terms of the active role in ensuring what that all entails, what measure of it, details that would be new that this, or not new but is determined.
Yeah, so I can go first.
Yeah,
you can go first. All right, so realistically, this is coming from just actions that we're supporting as a government. So sexual assault prevention and education being something that's provided through our university through things like Jayhawks Give a Flock and other associated trainings that students have been receiving for a few years now here. But the action part for the active role in ensuring that sexual violence is reported within KU and the Lawrence community. So as of right now, currently all exec staff as university employees are mandatory reporters. So if someone was to report an incident of sexual violence to us or any other plethora of things that is under the state report mandate, that would be something that we would have to report to the university and make sure that it gets investigated properly. This also entails, as a student, taking active, actions in terms of like making sure like if someone like does outreach to you with a situation that occurred with them of sexual assault or violence on our campus, you're not a mandatory reporter usually if you're just a regular student. So that generally becomes like talking with the victim, asking them like what they would like to do to pursue further actions related to that, whether that be going to the police or going to university authorities on the matter. Really just anything you can do to help victims of sexual violence on our campus get the help and resources that they need.
Yeah, and just kind of to add on to that, you know, there's a lot that's going to be kind of introduced to Senate as a conversation starter, especially, and it's unfortunate that we have to kind of start it on this note, especially, but it's incredibly important that we continue this conversation and we're able to provide those resources for the victims and survivors. Any other questions? Yes.
Question from here.
Is there, I know that you said you guys are mandatory reporters. Would you maybe add something in there about supporting the victim/survivor's decision as to whether or not they wish to report, be needed for the General Student Senate? Specifically, that we respect their wishes.
Yes.
Of the survivor. I was trying to look to see if that may clarify things.
So yeah, no, it is a big decision, obviously, to go forward with that. I do know that if you talk to a mandatory reporter involving an act of sexual violence, that they have to mark it down and they have to report it to the correct authorities. Then you have a decision whether to go forward with that or not. So absolutely, we can put down that we stand with the survivors of these violent acts, whether that's on, you know, UNL's campus, or I know that like KU also faces that issue. So we will stand with those survivors, but there obviously is that kind of order that they have to go about.
Yeah, and further elaborating on that, when it comes to like the mandatory reporting statutes, really like once it becomes like that you've made that outcry to a mandatory reporter, the decision really isn't in anyone's hands at that point. So that's why it's important that if you feel someone is going to display that like they were attacked in an incident of sexual violence, then you would have to maybe prep that conversation by being like, hey, I'm a mandatory reporter through the university as a state employee. So I just want to inform you of that before we continue this conversation. Most students aren't trained to do that as people who aren't university employees in that matter. So yeah, it really does become a situation which mandatory reporters must report that as soon as they hear it, whereas people who are just regular students can be more flexible with like the survivor's decision and also look at support in different ways in that matter.
But thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Yes, Sadie.
I almost bullshit that. I really was getting the whole thing. Would you all be okay with like adding after ensuring in that like last week for the results, like and advocate for existing students extended channels to further increase protection for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence in there, so that way there's like some, so that way I feel like have like some like forward progress with the students and too.
Yes, we will, but we're gonna have you repeat that in a second.
Right, SharePoint.
There we go.
I don't know what this unknown object is, but gonna move on here. Let's see. Oh, it seems like a couple of people are on this ledge. Okay. So where was it that you wanted to add it, Sadie? After like what word?
And everyone's learning devices reported, and like so after reported, like then like a like and advocate. Existing channels.
I was gonna say student senate and university channels probably.
Yeah, further increased protection for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence.
Or further increased protections for
Sexual sexual and gender-based violence.
All right. Okay, so now it's be it further resolved that that KU Student Senate considers sexual assault prevention and education a top priority for students and their student government. Furthermore, KU Student Senate will take an active role in ensuring that sexual violence is reported and advocate through existing Student Senate and university channels to further increase protections for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence within the KU and Lawrence community. Yeah, it was Phi Gamma Delta. These do not do that. Yeah, but I don't know if it would work with like a 3-word chain.
Well, Ethan is going through that. Is there anything else? Yes, Will.
Yeah, while we're at it, can we add, every time it says Phi Gamma Delta, can we add a lambda new chapter of Phi Gamma Delta? Reason being that technically Phi Gamma Delta is an international organization without a specific chapter designation. So right now, this is technically condemning Phi Gamma Delta as a whole, which we have a part of on this campus. And that's kind of, it would be better if it was more specific.
Would it be like using like the same language where we're like on the UNL campus?
Kind of, but like I said, it's an international organization. So if it's not designated specifically by chapter, then it's a condemnation of the whole organization, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
And so what was
I have
the
a question.
Yeah.
This might sound bad, but I'm going to say anyway. I know it's a chapter of an organization, but if they're doing it and you're associated by chapter name, I feel like it's perfectly fine to just keep on the UNL campus, because whilst it may have never happened at KU, you're still like brothers across internationally, you know? So to me, it's like you still have like some tie connection, yeah, thank you, buddy, to that group. So I feel like I feel like it's a disservice to not, I mean, to me, the whole organization should be condemned because they're one as an organization internationally, you know? And just because it's not happening in one place doesn't mean it's not happening somewhere else. And they are all brothers of the same fraternity, like, you know?
Yeah.
That's my, as a survivor, let me throw that in there, that's my thoughts on the matter.
Okay.
I don't disagree with your sentiment, but I think that's exactly what I'm trying to establish, is that it was specific, and I don't think that it's okay to condemn Phi Gamma Delta fraternity as a whole. None of us have ever met those people. Technically, we function under the same organization, but again, Phi Gamma Delta's been on KU's campus for 140 years. We've got a long-standing history here. James Naismith was a PG here. Like, we've got a long-standing connection with the campus. And I do believe that it is important that we are specific about the chapter designation, just so that we're not in condemnation of an organization that's, been a huge part of KU long since us or our parents or our grandparents were even born.
Right. So we are saying like at the UNL campus, and then we state pretty much the fraternity. And so I think that in context, like, it is very easy to pick up that we are not really condemning the one on KU's campus, but especially the one at UNL, and honestly, sexual violence as a whole. So That's kind of where we're coming from this point. Yes.
Yeah, I would just say like I definitely see like where Holly's coming from, and I can see where obviously like the other point of it too. I think it's just important to understand that the history and the system of sorority life or sorority and fraternity life in general can be very complicated, and I think kind of like Holly said, just because something hasn't outwardly been claimed or hasn't outwardly been, like in the media, like doesn't mean that those things like haven't happened or like aren't still happening. And so I think it's just important, especially with this, like, yes, obviously we're making the distinction of UNL campus, but it's important that we're also saying just in like overall campuses, like overall, because these issues are continuing to happen like at a really like high level. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah,
thank you.
I don't want to sound super nitpicky, but also kind of on the flip side, moving away from like the sentiment of what was said, like the proper verbiage for addressing the Phi Gamma Delta fraternity chapter at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln is what Lambda New. That is how like the community, that's how nationwide like chapters are recognized. So if we want to be correct in assuring that we have proper verbiage and relating to this chapter, it would correctly be the Lambda New chapter of the Phi Gamma Delta sorority.
It actually has more to do with the Lambda Nu chapter than it does with the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it's less affiliated with the university than it is with the Greek letter designations. Yeah, she's correct.
Yeah. And all individual chapters are more autonomous from the university than they are from their chapter national organizations. Exactly. So they line up more from their chapter national headquarters. Say for us, the university.
Okay.
Great. Jenny, did you have something on Teams?
I was commenting that I think that the entire fraternity is at least partially at fault for allowing these things to get out of hand at even one member campus. And I think that there is important to hold the fraternity, even if it is an international fraternity, accountable because they didn't have things set up hierarchically in a way that could prevent this kind of activity on their campuses.
Thank you, Jenny.
Okay.
Sadie?
I think that this is like bringing up like two different like standpoints, and I think that we need to like decide on one in this space. What like this resolution is really about. Like, is this a resolution like condemning this like this instance and like this like atrocity that's happening right now? And is that what this main goal of this resolution is? While still acknowledging that there are obvious like key problems on our campus, but is the main focus the instance that we went out, or is this a larger condemnation of like fraternal and like organizations, like IC organizations as a whole, and things? Because I think that if we just leave in, my opinion of it is, if we leave in Fiji primarily, but just like specify it as that chapter, then we're still leaving a lot of different IC chapters who have like equally problematic and like truly like bad like past and things like that, like unscathed. So I think if this is if this is so specific on the UNL campus, then I agree. I think it like should be like respectful, like the language of that like institution thing, just because like like if you did the standard we hold ourselves to here, it's just like like we are all used to all the jargon and things, being like acknowledging that. But if this is a larger commentary, then I think that a lot of this like then we need to reflect that on there as well, and like change resolutions to be like this instance here and like blowing it up larger. And so I think like right now it's kind of in the middle, so we need to kind of choose one, because like right now, I don't think either would be direct is the way it sits.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, and actually, I just want to go off a little bit of what Sadie said. I think we can find a little bit of a middle point. Like, what if this specific resolution that we're passing as committee as a whole, we specified like the chapter and everything, and then in committees, next week, every committee can have a conversation about like how we want to address this more broadly. How we want to address this, like just including all their fraternities and sororities and like all campuses, whatever. So like we could do this one specifically condemning that chapter, and then I just think conversation can be more it can lead to better results in committees. So I feel like we could have even more ideas and more ways to address this like once we view it through committees. But I still think this should pass today, I think it's a great resolution. So perhaps that's a good half point. What do people think?
Yeah.
I agree.
I agree.
And let's see. You had something to say before you left the room, and then we'll go to Camden over here. Did you still have something you wanted to add, or?
No, I was just agreeing with what he said. I apologize. I just raised my hand.
Perfect. You're good. Camden.
Well, my next question is, if we do want to make this targeted against the DG and the new chapter at University of Nebraska campus, the resolution as is already, pretty broad in its scope. The third whereas clause pretty explicitly says that we recognize the insidious nature of hazing and sexual assault in Greek life organizations and larger university communities. I mean, that line to me sounds like a pretty clear cut, I don't want to say condemnation, but at the very least a criticism of Greek life as a whole. So if we decide to tailor this resolution to be more specific, only addressing University of Nebraska Lincoln teacher chapter, then I think the question becomes to be that as well.
Well, it is condemning the actions of like the Phi Gamma Delta fraternity at like the University of Nebraska Lincoln. So I would actually agree that we hone in on like the chapter designation, because it is a condemnation of that specific action. However, when it comes to this whereas clause that you're mentioning here for the insidious nature of hazing and sexual assault in Greek life organizations and in larger university communities, that's not really speaking to the condemnation as much as it's speaking to the actual nature of hazing and sexual assault within those areas itself. Because as university undergrad professionals, as being an RA, you have to learn the signs of when hazing is occurring, when sexual assault may have potentially occurred. And it's a harder line to toe, especially when it comes to Greek life organizations on campuses, because they're technically in an off-campus jurisdiction most of the time, which means that in terms of proceedings for the student code and raising student code violations and those natures, it gets pretty difficult. And so it is in fact an insidious nature of sexual assault and hazing on the fact of not the part of the organizations, but it is an accurate critique in that this happens within Greek life organizations, and it's something that's hard to really go into in that sense.
Yes, exactly. The point being that we're discussing, is this a broad thing, or is this a really minute focused thing?
Well, as an event, I think it's something that should give us pause as a campus, which is why that line is in there, because realistically, and accurately so. And so, realistically, using this event, it's time for us to really consider where we are as a campus on sexual assault prevention and education, and time to take another look at what we're doing on our campus, because we know sexual assault and violence is continuing to happen on KU's campus, has become worse in terms of the pandemic, making it to where people can't report it as easily, especially in online learning. When sexual assault takes place off campus, it creates a whole ton of Title IX issues. And so it really brings to the heart of this issue of reorienting ourselves to a sort of attacking this very violent act that takes place on college campuses across America.
I agree with Camden. It kind of seems like we're meshing the two, and that's creating kind of a lot of confusion. If we're going to do Nebraska this time, we should just focus on Nebraska. And then in committees next week, we can talk about a broader resolution. I think that would resolve a lot of these concerns and kind of sort all this confusion out.
Okay. All right. So are we in favor of just adding the Lambda Nu designation in that sense?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. And hopefully my Greek lettering is good.
But I think that each committee should have some action items of what they want to accomplish, tangible things that this committee can do to open more channels for sexual assault prevention and stuff like that. And so it's not sitting around talking about how we want to prevent sexual assault, but think about until next week when your committee meets, what can my committee do that is tangible, that could be something started soon.
Thank you. Oh, is it?
Yeah, that would be correct. Yeah.
All right.
No worries.
That's done. Can I make a motion?
Well, we're not back
Yeah,
into
can
regular.
I make a motion to go back?
Oh, make a motion to go back? Sure you can.
Yeah. So that we can vote.
Yeah.
So that I can have dinner.
Yeah.
We've had good questions.
Yeah.
And everybody's in agreement, right?
What are you going to provide dinner?
No, but I'm going to provide Indian food for me, and I'm like.
All right. So Lambda Nu chapter of the Phi Gamma Delta fraternity. Is that good language? We're all set.
Beautiful.
Brilliant. Thank you, Greek folks.
Do we mind putting it in every one? Not to be
Well, that's what I'm about to do. Like, I'm copying it here.
Copy and paste it.
Thank you.
No probs.
Appreciate it.
Okay, yeah, and I just want to say too, like, just because I know, like, I don't know about obviously like everyone in the room, but obviously like we have a pretty big like fraternity and sorority life here, like on KU's campus, and I definitely don't want anybody who belongs to that, like those institutions, to think like this is just like a fraternity like bashing session.
Yeah.
This isn't what it is. I think it's important to understand that this is an issue that is very historical, like has continued, and for us to be able to tackle these issues and to have that accountability, these conversations have to happen. So if it is coming across to anybody that like, oh, well, like they're attacking fraternity life, or I feel attacked because I'm in fraternity or I'm in a sorority or whatever, then if you're willing, like we can have a conversation outside of this of maybe like why anyone feels that way or why they feel that way about just this issue in general. Because again, like it doesn't fall just on one person. It doesn't fall on just one chapter. Like it doesn't fall on just, you know, one campus, you know what I mean? Like this is something that is happening like all over our country, and I'm sure like all over the globe. So it's important. It's an important conversation to have, and I feel like everyone's feelings like in this space, whether are good or bad about this, is completely valid. So yeah, I just wanted to like make that a little like sidebar. Yeah. So.
All right. I've made the corrections that were requested. If people want to like go over that one more time grammatically to make sure everything is okay.
You didn't add the lambda new bar at the very top.
At the very top? Oh, yeah. That's critical, really.
Just like to say I appreciate everyone kind of putting input. I know that this is a very heavy topic to be tackling on the first cycle, but again, this is an incredibly vital conversation that we need to continue without Senate, and we need to hold people accountable, and especially as we function as senators or people who are coming and participating in this student government body, we have a duty to uphold. To make sure that everyone in our environment is able to function to the best of their ability, and we support those who decide to share their stories and come forward.
All right. Camden?
I think we should have a vote on the fourth and fifth, whether or not we can vote for the whereas on the Senate, because I still don't think we've addressed the issue of the scope of this resolution.
The thing is, I don't think those two clauses are a problem at all, because like we're saying like we condemn the specific actions of the like this specific chapter, which we are recognizing is a broader problem, which I think is something worth having here, which we are then going to address in committees. But I think like these two whereas clauses aren't super problematic.
Yeah, no, which is fine. I mean, I personally, I wish I would say that we should leave them, but at the same time, I mean, there is still an important question that remains unanswered. Is this directed solely at the BC chapter of UNL, or is this a critique of Greek life and its, you know, commensurate culture?
And that wording, I mean, insidious obviously has certain connotations, and we do have to remember that it is almost a quarter of our campuses affiliated with Greek organizations.
Right.
So I think there can be a separate conversation about whether to be condemning this thing in Greek life as a whole, but I mean, hazing and sexual assault happens outside of Greek life too. So
yeah.
Okay. I mean, I completely, I respect that you're in a Greek life organization, but this was an insidious act. It was an act of violence, and so, like, we are condemning that specific act and those who participate in that act. And so, if that doesn't apply to,
I guess
you know,
I have more of a problem with the word nature then, because I agree that that act was insidious, but nature of sexual assault.
Well, it's
Right,
that's the
but,
thing.
like-
It's targeting the nature of hazing and sexual assault, not Greek life.
yeah, like,
So insidious isn't meant to be like affirming like Greek life organizations. It's meant to be talking about like the nature of hazing and sexual assault within the university.
right.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I feel like we should just go ahead and get rid of that. This is the fourth round, the one we're on right now. I feel like the bottom one is broad enough to where we're not specifically condemning any group and saying universities across the United States. That line is fine because that line is really broad. The line above that is the same thing that Kevin has been addressing where we're specifically kind of going after Greek life, which I thought we all agreed on was, hey, we can do this in committees or have that discussion in committees. I feel like if we just get rid of that, the one below it, while it is broad, I feel like that one doesn't specifically call any group out, and that one we should keep in. But the one that you're currently on, I feel like it's kind of doing the opposite of what we just agreed on.
I guess I'm like a little confused at like how it's connecting in that sense.
Well, so you might not be.
Yeah. Well, it's open, so forum.
You say University of Kansas students recognizes the insidious nature of hazing and sexual assault in Greek life organizations. I mean, the initial perception you get when you read that is not like hazing and sexual assault when it happens in Greek life campuses is bad. It's a pretty clear and blunt broadside in my view that look, this is a bad thing that is always and it's insidious and it's happening in Greek life campuses. I mean, I'm in full agreement with any. I have really no problem with the whereas clause if we're trying to make this a more targeted thing, or I think it's broad enough that it doesn't, necessarily go so far as to directly criticize 25% of KU student body. But I do think it's reasonable to interpret that fourth whereas clause as, a direct attack on Greek life as an institution. And the question remains if this is what this resolution is supposed to be, which again remains unanswered, which is why I think we should have a vote on it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Martin has had his hand up, then Ari, then Naya, and then Sadie.
So to vote on this bill or to vote on keeping anything, we would have to move out of committee as a whole, correct?
Well, realistically, like the legislation is going to be generated as it is. Once we exit committee of the whole, so if we exit committee of the whole now, the legislation will be introduced as it is, and then we'd have to vote for amendment processes. If people believe that would be better, then we could go ahead and do that. We could also look for like a visual vote of like where we're at in terms of this, like within committee of the whole, so we don't have to go to an amendments vote once we get into the other. But if it is something that the chamber is like divided on in that sense, then it might be more beneficial to go to a vote on the amendment to the bill. So.
So 1 in 4 college enrollment will be sexually assaulted in their lifetime, which is horrible, right? At a college campus. That likelihood is even higher for those in Greek life. So, yes, all sexual assaults matter. All hazing matters, right? However, the specific legislation addresses this issue in Greek life. So, yes, it's going to be included. Hazing and sexual assault is insidious. It's an insidious nature. It is a horrible thing, and it should not exist. However, it does. And to say that, like you do, it's really disingenuous to say that Greek life has not perpetuated and oftentimes covered up those instances. We are in an amazing point in, I think, history where we are finally turning that point. And all of Greek life is trying to be better, which is amazing and great. And I am absolutely positive that we have the best members of those chapters in these chambers right now. And I'd like to recognize that we absolutely do. And if we do have the best members of those chapters, then they should unequivocally support this. I don't really have anything else to say other than like that's what it is, and that's the world.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm understanding too, okay, so is the issue with, is this the fourth one, the one that we're on right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so with the fourth one, is the issue that Greek life organizations is in that sentence? Would you feel, I guess whoever does have an issue with that, would you feel more comfortable if it said the University of Kansas Student Senate recognizes the insidious nature of hazing and sexual assault in larger university communities?
Or should it be more specified?
Because
we could go to the specificities of that specific one, and then that would rule out kind of.
I think that it would be different if it said in Greek life organizations and didn't have anything else after it. Then I could definitely see that point. But the fact that it also says and in larger university communities, which is all of the university, it's not a targeting of just Greek life. It is addressing what's happening in Greek life, which it is happening. And like Ariana said, like, you know, it at a higher rate than a woman who, you know, a woman or someone identifying as a woman or whatever, and especially for like QT folks in, you know, in Greek life, it's happening at a higher rate. So I think it's not targeting of Greek life in general, because we're also including in there in the larger university communities as well. So, I mean, I personally don't think that there's an issue with having that in there. I think if I understand like the point of like wanting to like not have it super focused on like one thing, but the fact of the matter is it is happening in Greek life. So to make it to where like it's so broad that we're not specifically saying like this is what we're standing against, then that, again, like Ariana said, like being like disingenuous. Like it's at that point, like what's
the point of condemning it if you're not just going to recognize that, like.
And I think if you are in Greek life and you're saying like, yeah, I don't support sexual assault, I don't support sexual violence, I don't support racism, or I don't support all of these things, then I don't believe that there should be an issue with holding other people in Greek life accountable, whether that's your roommate, whether that's somebody across the country, whether that's the entire, you know, I don't really know like if, you know, the international fraternity has even like made a statement or said that they plan on like holding these people accountable. But the fact of the matter is, like, if you don't stand for these things, then I don't think that there should be an issue or so much like nitpicking around like, oh, well, like this, and this. Like like what we're saying is we're condemning the insidious nature of hazing and sexual assault that is in Greek life, and in addition, the larger university community. And that's a fact. Like,
thank you, Naya. All right.
I think.
No,
it's worded
I was
fine.
pointing to Sadie.
Oh, sorry.
I think that the scope of this is like fine, and that's not what I'm like. That's not what we're talking about. I think the scope of it is really good, and I think that this is a really important piece of legislation, which like small business, not necessarily the most vocal person. I started getting into it on this one because I think this like is like really pivotal, and I think it's an important tone set for the rest of the year, especially in these chambers, because there's not many places where members of like the 4 Greek councils on KU are in the same room, as well as like all various other students. It's a very unique opportunity, and one that we need to take advantage of. That in that same context, going to like Greek life organizations and things. So what I would like propose for that is to replace it with interfraternity council, which would be like fraternities. It's like allows for a scope, but it's more directly applied to the situation. And so things like, in my head, it's like a happy like medium between the two sides, because it still is broad and like targeting, which is like just like on like facts, like truly just is like facts is like these are like big 4 aggressors, and like why the risk of sexual assault with like Panhellenic and MGC and PhD members are like so high because of that like relationship. And so I think that you move in instead of Greek life interfraternal council, that it still allows for a broad condemnation of this like truly insidious nature of the hazing and sexual assault, while like kind of like having a little bit more focused lens to it. And so then like in committee next week we can like talk about Greek life as a whole. Kimberly, I just want to say real quick, I completely agree with Sadie, but I also just want everyone to recognize that sexual assault does happen within the PHA community itself, between women and women identifying individuals, as well as MGC and PhD. So I completely second what Sadie just said, but I think it's important everyone keep in mind the difference between all 4 councils and affects other people on campus. Okay, I totally agree, and I think it's really important to keep in mind, but I just think in the context of this legislation specifically, it depends centered on ISD, and then next week, maybe we can even like get a small group, or not even small, we can group people together before this Friday when legislation is due, so that way we can get like a formal piece of legislation in for committee next week addressing like the larger endemic that is in Greek life and like the problems there.
My worry would be, wouldn't that actually attach it to that organization then, causing like the same issue of not addressing it as like the Lambda Nu chapter, in which you're now attaching the Interfraternity Council to this matter?
I think in like this case, like with Greek life, they're already attaching like every like, and it, you know what I mean. Like IC wouldn't be like absolved of attachment by just writing Greek life, and so I don't think it necessarily like saves them any grace, but I think that it does allow student senate and like the senators in here and then also the committee members to have like a more, or to have like a conversation and like really get things formalized that lens. Like two like impactful pieces of legislation. That's just like my idea, like how to get that like how to get this like through and like how to make it like as impactful as possible. Also like kind of like finding a middle ground, but then also allowing for that broader conversation that like truly needs to be had, and I'm glad that's happening at this level because I honestly didn't know it would be. And so, but I think that that could be better addressed in committees, not through committee as a whole, because it just like, yeah, like this is necessary for committee as a whole unity, but like we can have this conversation to try and get that resolution before fighting for a larger group-wide conversation. I think that there are members of those communities who aren't present right now who, and outside who would be really like great in this conversation and steering it. And so I think to have that larger commentary to keep it on IFB is still like very relevant, like in terms of like the content of this bill. And I don't think it's like necessarily does anything in addition to the 3.1%, but it's more like the other, like we have 3 other councils like this here, maybe. Not that they don't have like already mentioned like these issues, but
all right. Thanks. I was gonna say, can everyone who wanted to speak like raise their hand so I can kind of like rank for people who haven't spoken? So yeah, can we have you here, Alejandro, you, Camden, and was anyone else raising their hand over here that I missed? Well, yeah. Okay, perfect. So we'll go with that order.
I would propose a language change to the insidious nature of hazing and sexual assault when and where it occurs in Greek-like organizations. So hopefully we can avoid this like interpretational gap between what insidious is defined to.
Okay.
That would help.
Do people like that? Okay, who else is on here? All right. Okay.
Also,
in organizations and in larger university communities.
I feel like that increases the.
All right, is everyone happy with that as the solution for resolving any sort of connection in that sense? All right, and I see a motion from Hanif. All right, do I see a second? I see a second from Camden. And so, does anyone in opposition to moving out of committee of the whole? All right. Seeing none, do we have any on Teams who are opposed to going out of committee of the whole back into the regular session? All right, seeing none. With that, I will say that passes with unanimity, and we are back in regular session. Faith, if you want to stay up there for the sake of like being the author.
I think we should all take a deep breath for a second. Let's just breathe in and then breathe out, because that was a lot of conversations and very heavy topics, and I appreciate you guys being just very open to that. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you for the kindness and candor that was exercised in this chamber as we were going through those difficult conversations. I know that, yeah, as Faith said, this is a controversial issue, and like, thankfully it's something that we have the space to talk about here and to address on our campus as a whole. With that, I will go ahead and be looking for a motion to vote on this new committee-generated legislation. All right, I see a motion from Ton, and do I see a second from Camden? All right, with that, we will go into voting on the matter. I will pull up the form here. Faith, could you scroll to the top so I could see what this has been articled as? Perfect. And as always, A if you would like to approve, nay if you would not like to approve, and abstain if you would like to abstain from voting. All right. And with that, this voting is now up in the general session of Teams. And all right, we're here. And so, yeah, vote on the matter through the general, and I'll give this matter about 2 minutes for voting. Our team, we've gone into voting on the bill. I don't know if you'd like to do that on the general. By the way, I'm also going to put a chat in here to sponsor the legislation. And basically just comment in the general chat, like you're replying to that if you would like to be a sponsor.
Do they have to be a voting member to sponsor it? Do they have to be a voting member?
No, technically any student can actually sponsor legislation in the student senate.
You would just, like, it's reply to your sponsor. Yeah, probably.
You can think of that.
And yeah, just if you'd like to sponsor, yeah, just put the word sponsor. You don't have to use the formal. Just... And we're still waiting to meet quorum on the vote for this legislation.
I think so. I don't know.
They can still vote even though they're a sponsor, or even though they're not, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, word.
On the general.
Okay.
And just gonna double check this here on the forums, make sure we're good to go. All right, has everyone had the chance to vote on this matter who is able to in the chamber? All right, seeing that. Is there anyone in the teams who hasn't had a chance to vote yet? All right, seeing that no one is making it heard that they are still waiting to vote, I'll go ahead and close voting procedures here. And with a vote of 26 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 4 abstentions, this legislation clearly passes. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your resilience. We've hit a 2-hour meeting mark here, which is not what we want as students, but also what we get to do serving here in the Student Senate. With that, we will go ahead and move on to announcements. Does anyone have any announcements they believe should be heard by the full Senate? in regards to stuff happening on campus, student organizations. Max?
We got mugs if anyone wants.
Please grab our mugs. All right. Umberto?
Yeah, I just want to make like a quick reminder, like conversations that might get heated here and there, it happens, it's part of the debate, it's part of the healthy conversation, so don't get discouraged, if you feel like, I don't know, your idea wasn't fully heard or it was debated. That's the whole point of this floor, is to have these like conversations and debates and all of this, so thank you all for participating today.
I would like to formally just say that I'm incredibly sorry that I did not get a trigger warning before presenting this legislation. I know that everyone holds their own experiences with that, and I want to be respectful of it. So moving forward, we will ensure that we give trigger warnings when mentioning sexual violence. So.
Thank you for that, Faith. And yeah, I would echo those. I'm sorry for not giving a trigger warning in relation to that legislation. In the future, I will also correct and make sure that that is accurately displayed when we are going into conversations like that. One of the interesting parts of being in an academic space such as this is that you do definitely toe the line between like ensuring a safe space, but also allowing discussion to happen that's academically uncomfortable in that nature. So thank you. Naya?
Yeah, I just want to let y'all know, we will be meeting with the chancellor and the chancellor's chief of staff on Friday. So we'll be building the schedule like this evening and like tomorrow morning to get that set out. So if there is anything specific you think we should be bringing up that you like want us to put on the agenda, you can just reach out to me, Ethan or Holly, and we'll make sure that like that gets discussed and all that stuff. So I just wanted to give another reminder for that.
All right, looks like Hamad has an announcement in the back.
Student Health Advisory Board, I chair that committee. Our first meeting is September 8th, and we'll be meeting walk-in/hybrid at 3:30 p.m. Want to talk about code stuff or the Watson murder with the health system? Great place to be. If you're a pre-med major, great place to be. See you there.
Thank you for that, Hamad. And yeah, just sitting here, I will also echo, remember that the SSR rewrite committee will be meeting in the next few weeks. That is for the revision of our governing document as a whole. And so very important discussions to be in and also be aware of as we're going through like the rest of the semester here. And Ton?
We also have the fund elections next week on Wednesday at the committee, and we're going to be having the fund meeting on Thursday. So it is very important to like help marginalized groups, and we are going to handle that. The fund is very important for marginalized groups and student organizations. So if you want to raise your voice, if you want to help, please be there. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Ton. And I don't know if like anyone else knows this. It might be Hanif, it might be you, Ton. But do we know the current like status of like that DEI fund in terms of giving money to student orgs? Yeah. 75,000. All right, and that's a budget for the entire year. Awesome. All right, so something to keep in mind. Sadie?
Hi everyone, my name is Sadie. I'm also the chair of finance committee and things, so sorry to really talk a lot, so I won't talk about that again. But so finance committee is meeting next Wednesday at 6, so if you come at 5:30, there's going to be food and it's going to be fun, some fun little finance, like students in it. The games are going to be happening and things. It'll be a good time, but just come. I have coined it Munch and Crunch because we will be snacking while crunching numbers.
Nice.
So please come. It'll be a good time. Finance this year, and like finance is also one that does like fees and things like that in the spring. So it's a good time.
Martine?
So going off what everyone else is doing, Student Rights Committee will be meeting. It's a really good time there. We have like one member right now that's outside of the exec board, so it'd be really good to have some new faces, some fresh faces, and rewrite the Constitution. So yeah.
Thank you for that, Martine. And just for clarification, finance will be in Alderson, and student rights will be in the English room. Let's see, Ton, would you also like to shout out DEI's meeting? Yeah, DEI is in Pine Room, and Faith for University Affairs?
Yeah, please come to University Affairs. I'm sure we'll have cookies or something. If you have any allergies, send them my way. But yeah, we're going to be having our meeting in the Centennial Room on the 6th floor. So it would be great to see you all.
Brilliant, thank you. And I saw Camden first, I think, over here. Oh, sounds good. Ari? Yep. Motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? I see a second from Martine. All right. And with that, is anyone in opposition to adjourning this meeting? All right. With that, I will say that this motion passes with unanimity, and we are officially adjourned. Yay.
Okay.